It's here. We are swapping out the neck pickup on my Woodward guitar today. Carl Bradychuk, my pickup winder, sent a very, very quirky thing. He sent a blade pickup with a chrome cover, so it looks just like a traditional Tele neck pickup. As you can see by this picture here, I've got what looks like an actual blade at the neck because it is a blade and it indeed looks like one. I filmed an unboxing, but it didn't go very well. The audio was really bad and I was really bad at keeping the boxing frame, so I'll just fast forward through it for you. And we're gonna go step by step. We're gonna put this pickup in and I'm gonna walk you through the entire process. All right, I'm gonna go over a few things you need. You're gonna need a flat table, right? No big deal here. Mine happens to be this coffee table. You're gonna want a cloth. You're gonna want a polish cloth and an extra washcloth. I take them along just in case. Then you're gonna need screwdrivers. So I've got a set of screwdrivers, plus I have my handy dandy Phillips. I also take along a pair of wire cutters to cut the strings off because we gotta get rid of those old strings. You're definitely gonna wanna have a soldering iron, seeing as how we're gonna be doing some soldering. You actually need some extra solder and a solder sucker. You never know when that can come in handy. I also have a gauge for measuring pickup height, a snark tuner for when we get the new strings on. I only have a bass winder.
Slap at the bass!
I don't think that's going to work, but the only string winder I have. And there was a hiccup in this whole process and I ended up needing some super glue. And then instead of a cable, I've got a wireless thing that plugs into an amp that's all the way across the room for making sure that the pickup works. I always have my Leatherman on me too. So here we have it, folks, a Woodward Telegraph, serial number 8. This came out of Forest Arms Apartments. It's my main guitar. I love Woodward guitars. They're made out of old wood. This piece of pine that this guitar is made out of is over 100 years old. And as you see here, we're relieving tension in the strings, and then I cut them down here. I just find that this is easier to cut them in, like down there towards the pickup. And if you're like me, you've got cats, so make sure you wrap those strings up real tight and try to keep them out of the way because the cats like playing with the strings, and I don't think that's safe for them. 5-screw pick guard here, so there's 1, there's 2, here's 3, there's 4, and 5. There's little tiny screws here. Oh, look what's under the pick guard. Thanks, Anthony. So at this point I got to remove the bridge screws, and I'm realizing that the saddles are actually in the way of the 4 screws that hold in that bridge. So I've got to push those saddles out. I just had this guitar intonated, but the good news is I can re-intonate it at home, and I can see in the witness marks where those saddles normally go. I used 4 slightly larger screws than what came with the guitar because I was having trouble with the original bridge plate laying flat. This is a Carl Bradychuk bridge plate. I replaced it a couple years ago, and it lays flat pretty much every single time, but I wanted a little more bite into the wood with the new bridge plate. So that's why I used slightly larger screws. So you see me torquing on it just a little bit harder than maybe you're going to, or you're going to have to. Now onto the last screw, and the thing is, I absolutely love this Carl Bradychuk bridge. It's a stainless steel bridge, and I really suggest it if he's got any still left. Make sure you order one when you can. There it is, the bridge comes out. The pickups are still attached, so the bridge actually doesn't pull away from the body. So now we get to pull the control plate. That's just 2 tiny screws like the same ones that held in the pick guard, and oh, I pulled that wire right off of that pot. Along with the link to Carl's pickups and Woodward guitars and stuff, I'm also going to include a link to the wiring diagram that I like. It's called 50s Vintage Wiring Mod. It's an alternative to a treble bleed. It just changes 1 wire from a standard Tele Wiring. It takes the middle lug of the volume pot and connects it to the outside lug of the tone pot. Alright, so now I got 2 screws that are holding in the neck pickup. Now in a T-style guitar like this, the neck pickup is mounted directly into the body. There's a piece of foam padding underneath of it. Now we're at the part where we get to solder. How about that? So safety first for this. I don't want to ruin the finish, so I've got this cloth here. And again, all the towels you're seeing here are made out of non-flammable material, to your knowledge. So I just got to remove the lead off the pickup selector. Done. And then it's already off the volume pot. However, I did twist all the wires together, so I'm going to have to heat that up, suck that gob of solder off. That towel is just kind of getting in the way. I'm just going to be really, really careful. Now, I don't work on other people's guitars. I'm pretty rough. I'm pretty quick. I'm pretty dirty with a lot of this stuff. So this is acceptable for my own instrument. One of my favorite tools in the whole world is the solder sucker. It's really fun, especially if you're like me and you're a little bit messy sometimes with your solder. It's a real great way of cleaning up. Alright, so I got that piece of solder off and I just can't separate the wires. I'm not a big fan of trimming leads, but thankfully they're right in the middle, so I'm not really losing any length on anything. I'm just cutting right down the middle of these 2 wires. So neck pickup removal now. I'm going to be very, very careful to thread those wires through. I do not want to introduce any more pressure. I do not want to rip any wires off, especially do not want to tear the hot leads off of that pickup. Carl does not like it when I call him after I break his pickups. Alright, nice and easy now, out. Good. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. Look at that. So there's the new one on the left and the old one on the right. Now with this cloth wire, I find that you can actually massage it back a little bit, so I don't actually have to pull out the wire cutters, which is nice. So now I'm just going to move these screws out of the way because I'm about to dive into the bushings of the pickup, like the screw, the rubber hoses, and the springs, because I need to put those on the new pickup.
A towel is about the most massively useful thing an interstellar hitchhiker can have.
One of the biggest reasons why I lay a towel down anytime I'm working on anything is to catch like little screws and stuff like that if I drop them. If I was to drop them on that table, they would probably roll off onto the floor, and it's a hardwood floor, and they're just probably a big pain to find. So I just lay down the cloth so that way if anything falls, it falls on a soft cloth instead of, you know, bouncing around my floor. I've zoomed in here so you can see that I've got the screw through the top of the pickup. Then I've got a rubber hose, and there's usually a spring that actually wraps around that hose. It just helps to keep that body-mounted pickup in the spot that I want it to be, and I think it's easier to use than just a straight spring, which is usually what T-style guitars come with up there. Now it's time to put those parts in the new pickup, being very, very careful not to touch and break those leads that are hanging off just underneath the cover. If you've ever seen pickups up close, especially these kinds of pickups, there are just two copper wires that hang off the hot leads. You want to make sure that you're not damaging those. Be very, very careful. Just a couple more turns here with our screws and we should be ready to start threading this through. Now I am gonna braid those a little bit so that way they can thread through the cavity a little easier through that side. All right, now we're in the bridge cavity. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those down just a little bit to make sure that they hold their place. I'm not officially installing until I know that this pickup is still alive, which it is, but I learned the hard way that you wanna make sure you do a screwdriver test. Now, whenever you remove the bridge on a T-style guitar like this, there's a bare wire that hangs out under the bridge. That's your ground, and it's smushed between the body and the bridge. And it has a tendency to sort of indent into the body. It's just gonna happen. So I just nudge it over a little bit to make sure that I've got proper contact, and then I sink that sucker back down. All right, time to solder the new pickup in. So I'm gonna braid the two black wires together. And then I'm going to put the white wire where it goes in the pickup selector. Now, that was a little weird because it went right in, and I normally twist it over, but I hit it with some hot solder and it's straight on, so I'm kind of fiddling with it here I want it to hook, but it's such a solid joint, I think I just gave up on it and said, nah, it ain't going anywhere. So we're going to twist these wires together. So twist. Okay. I don't really have like a decent soldering station, but a pair of alligator clips is usually really handy. I don't have that on hand, so I'm just going to go ahead and use a giant gob of solder, why not? Make sure that you're using electrical solder, and make sure you get your face in there really close to huffing all them fumes. You don't want them solder fumes to go to waste. Unfortunately, somebody called me, probably right here, and my recorder shut off. But I just finished up the soldering and I laid the control plate down, so you didn't miss much. So now it's time for a screwdriver test. I'm going to plug it in. I've learned over the years that it's best to test the pickup directly, making sound. Test the bridge pickup, making sound. Now, leave the bridge pickup flipped on and test the neck, and vice versa. Make sure that it's making sound when it's supposed to make sound and not making sound when it's not supposed to be making sound. Now that I got it this far apart, I might as well clean it. Just a nice soft cloth and whatever guitar polish you like is the way I would do it. Again, make sure that that bare wire is where it's supposed to be. Pop the control plate back in. Make sure all the wires aren't hanging out. Good. Screw number 1. Screw number 2. Double checking just to make sure I didn't mess anything up. Yep, and we're making sound. Time to sink the bridge back in. So I got those 4 screws, and again, these are a little bit oversized, but it's just got a really nice bite into the wood. I've got a little bit of a technique to ensure that the bridge lays flat. It involves me sort of starting with the outsides, putting the middles in, then going back to the outsides. It's sort of like putting on the tire of a car. You don't ever go like in a line right around the circle because you want to make sure that the press is flat. I don't know that it actually helps, but maybe it does. So you'll see me unscrew and rescrew a couple times here just to make sure I get it right. Because if the bridge pops up, it becomes microphonic, and I don't want that. Teles are already kind of noisy as it is, and I don't need any help being noisy. Last little bit here, there. Should be getting close to being done now. All right, it's looking like it's pretty flat. So here's some rough adjustments with the neck pickup to make sure the strings clear through. I won't know the actual resting place of the neck pickup till I have strings on and I can hear it for myself and adjust the height properly. Got to put those saddles back on. I'm just following the witness marks where they were last time. I'll get a full intonation done as soon as I get strings on it. I'm a big fan of GHS strings. They're made in Michigan. I may live in Ohio now, but I still have the Michigan pride. Now GHS strings, they don't pay me. I wish they did. Believe me, I've been asking them to. That's a no. All right, so the nut popped off. After a frantic phone call to Anthony DiPaolo, he told me that I could just use super glue, but I got to act quick. He wants me to put on the 1st string and the 6th string, get those pretty close to up to tension, hit it with some super glue, put the nut on, then bring those 2 strings up to tension so that way it holds it on equal sides. So we're going to try it. I get asked a lot, how do I make sure that my strings are at the right length? Because I use the old school vintage tuners where the string slides into the slot. I have a technique I've been using since ever, actually, since my first time I changed my strings. Somebody told me that what you do is you pull the string straight through, you pinch it where the nut would be, because there's no nut in this guitar right now, and you drag it back the length of the 1st fret. So you want the string up to the tuner plus the spacing of the 1st fret. I went a little step farther. I go maybe the 1st fret plus maybe half of the 2nd fret sometimes. It works for me. And yeah, this bass winder, it's working for the outside strings, like the 1st string and the 6th string, but it's too big. Invest in a proper string winder, folks. It really saves you time. All right, so after a quick phone call to Anthony, he told me to make sure that I place the dot of super glue on the slot itself, and then place the nut in, and then bring the strings up to tension, making sure that the nut is even and held in place. I'm glad that I called and asked him. So if your nut ever falls off, that's how you do it. So now there's a whole lot of waiting here after I bring it up to tension of just letting that stuff settle in. Clean up the little bit of spillage I had here. That looks pretty good. It's not moving. Strings are even. All right, I think we're on smooth sailing now.